when it goes to our picks, you got a big board. You got. If you were creating the odds right now, and you said, "Hey, this is my list of guys that I believe the Steelers would target first and last." If I had to create this is my guess on their first round pick, who would it be?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like a top 5 goes, I feel like honestly that Fatanu would be at the top of that list. I think hits the right combination of could fall into that range, like Fuaga from Oregon State, like that's a good one, but like I'm not sure he's really going to fall that far. I don't think he's really going to be an option. I'd go Graham Barton after that. I really feel like that's kind of generating a lot of steam. There's some momentum there. Mims, I think Armarius Mims would be next, number 3, and these would all kind of this top 3 would be real close, and then there's like a big drop off between like 4 and 5. Like 4 and 5 would be kind of not last resorts, but like they're picking these 4th and 5th guys because those first 3 aren't there. And I think number 4 would be Nate Wiggins. I just think that's the corner that's going to end up falling to them. So if that's the one that if they want to go corner, that's the one they're going to go with.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think number 5 would be Adonai Mitchell. Kind of I feel like I had to put a receiver in there. And seems like the most likely one just in terms of range and what they've done scouting him this offseason. So yeah, that'd be my top 5, starting with Fatanu, Barton, Mims, Wiggins, and then Mitchell.
Yeah, my list looks a lot of the same, but I agree. I think that if you're going to add a wide receiver, it's going to be Mitchell. If you're going to add a corner, it's going to be Wiggins. My offensive tackle is probably Mims, but Fatanu makes a lot of sense. My list goes Mims just because, I mean, they've just loved, like from start to finish, he's been like the guy that they've just been fully on board with. And I think it's like realistic that he slides to him. I'm not saying it's their best pick. I'm just saying that if I had to guess today, that's where I'm going. Graham Barton would be number 2. That's if I'm guessing a center, that's the center I'm guessing. Like, I just don't think, I think if the Steelers are going to take a center in the first round, they're not going to take a chance on Jackson Powers-Johnson because people are talking about his snapping issues and maybe he's not as high up on the list as he once would have been. Zach Frazier is clearly a second-round pick, and then Cedric Van Pran is a guy that you're going to wait on. If I had to go first-round pick, Graham Barton's the guy. 3 would be Nate Wiggins, and I agree with you. I think the first 2, there's a drop-off after the first 2. I think Wiggins is 3 on my list, but I would probably tie him with Fatanu. I would probably say, like, if I had to put odds on that, those 2 would have the same odds at 3 and 4. Just because Wiggins is the corner. He's the guy that they've looked at. He's the guy that they've met with across the board, that they've brought in, that realistically is probably going to be there. I don't think that they view him as our pick in the first round. I think they view him as there's a realistic shot that he's the best corner on the board when we're picking and the rest of our options aren't as high. So we want to make sure that he is the dude that we feel most comfortable with in that situation. Whereas if Nate Wiggins is the best prospect available at pick number 20, we have done enough homework on him to understand whether or not he's worth the 20th pick in the draft. I would say Nate Wiggins is 3, Fatanu's 4, but again, I think those 2 are tied. They've shown so much interest in Fatanu. I would imagine he plays right tackle. That's the other interesting part about that list is like they list him as a guard. Yeah. The Steelers would never try to move him to guard. He
guard
would play,
and a center.
And a center. That just wouldn't. No, he's playing tackle. He's playing right tackle in Pittsburgh. That's where he'd go. And then I think last on my list would probably be Jackson Powers-Johnson. I think he deserves to be on the list, but I don't think that the Steelers, like I think at that point the Steelers are almost out of options. Like they just, they would fall to a place where the 20th pick just looks terrible and they'd go, shit. we gotta pick Jackson Powers-Johnson. Like this is the only move that we have left. Here's what I want to talk about next. Size matters. We all know it, and it's important to remember it in times of need. I recently went to a small law firm in hopes of getting the compensation I felt I deserved. I didn't, and to this day, I still think about the money that I may have missed out on. I filled out mounds of paperwork, then waited around for what felt like forever, got phone call after phone call telling me what I did not do right in the process, and it was expensive. All to get underwhelming compensation and almost zero satisfaction. Fortunately, if you ever get seriously injured and want to file a claim, you don't have to go through the same hassle I did. Instead, you can make it way easier by finding out if you have a claim in just a few clicks on your phone and working with America's biggest injury law firm with a promise of being for the people. Here comes Morgan & Morgan, today's sponsor. Morgan & Morgan has over 1,000 attorneys working in all 50 states fighting to get their clients the money they deserve. In recent months, they've achieved verdicts for their clients, including one that is worth $26 million. That is 40 times the highest insurance offer. And they're absolutely free unless you win. I got lowballed. Don't make the same mistake I did. Fighting big companies takes a big firm. And with America's biggest injury law firm, you're ready to take on insurance companies of any size. Don't overthink it. You can start your claim in just a few clicks by following the link in our description or by going to www.forthepeople.com/allsteelers. It only takes a few minutes to find out if you have a case. And if you have, it might be worth millions. And honestly, like I would replace that one. Like if I was being realistic, I would replace Jackson Powers Johnson with we're trading out of 20, with we're trading back and finding something. Because I think if that's how the board falls, where the Steelers are looking at it and they're going, all right, our options are Jackson Powers Johnson, maybe a couple of wide receivers, and like Kool-Aid McKinstry, they'd probably be like, all right, let's just see if we could get somebody. Let's see what the board looks like at 25 or 24 or something like that. But that would be my list. Mims, Barton, Wiggins, Fatanu, Jackson Powers Johnson / get out of there.
Jackson Powers Johnson has fallen, like at least in terms of I can't tell you what it looks like, in the bigger picture, but at least for the Steelers, like Jackson Powers Johnson was the dude, in I guess January or February, and ever since the combine, I feel like it's just been complete nosedive. I mean, really ever since the Senior Bowl, quite honestly. That's interesting, man. Like that was a guy who I feel like people were talking about him going top 15, and now if he goes before 20, like it'd be a miracle, it seems like.
That's what I'm saying. I think that he kind of slides his way into the second round, and he's not a name that's as impressive as it once was. And I don't know why. There's a lot of details there. I was told at the combine that this dude's got some issues that are going to start popping up more and more as we move forward. But yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't make sense how far he's dropping and how high Barton is rising.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, if you're the Steelers and you think, like, would you take that risk and not draft Barton in the first round if you thought you could get Powers Johnson in the second round, or do you think Powers Johnson not going to fall that far to make it worth it?
Do my options also include like names like Mims, or are all those guys gone? Are we looking at it and just saying like it's like a corner? Let's just go the last three options: Nate Wiggins, Fatanu, Jackson Powers Johnson are all on the board
in round two or round
Barton
one.
Is Barton in round one? Barton, Wiggins, Fatanu are probably the top three remaining guys on the Steelers board. Let's say that. If that's the situation, I think they'd go Barton. I do. I look at it like if the Steelers have an opportunity to add a next Marquise Pouncey, and I'm not saying Graham Barton is the next Marquise Pouncey, but I think that the Steelers are looking for that. They want their next, franchise center where they don't have to worry about this for a long time. Just like the Joey Porter Jr. edition, just like the Broderick Jones edition. These are not filler pieces anymore. This is, we have to hit big. This has to be a first round. This is our guy for the next 10 years. Zero questions asked. I think Barton has the upside to be that. And I think that at that point, like, why would you take the risk? Why would you wait it out and say, maybe our second round guy will be just as good? Like, and people are going to bring up like, well, you have options because what about Zach Frazier or Cedric Van Pran? I don't disagree that you'll have options. I do disagree that you're not taking a risk. I think that Barton's much less of a risk than the rest of them, and I think that's why I think they'd go Barton.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you'll have options at corner and wide receiver and to a lesser extent tackle too. Like, there'll be options all over the place. Like, it's really just about what kind of risk you want to take at what position. And center seems like one where maybe not worth it to take a risk.